If you're a beginner to Unity, then here are the 30 tips that I personally use and probably you should too, because it's going to make your life easier and speed up your development process as well. So let's get started. You can use Vertex Snapping to align two objects perfectly. So select the object that you'd like to move, press and hold the V button on your keyboard, select any one of the vertices and then just drag it to snap it into place. You can compare two game objects by adding a second inspector, right click, add tab and add an inspector, drag and drop it to the side and select the second game object, lock it, and now you can select the first one and you can compare the components. Make sure you're in perspective view, then press and hold the right mouse button and now you can use WASD to navigate in your scene. You can also adjust the speed by scrolling up or scrolling down. You can easily copy game objects from one scene to the other scene by simply adding the new scene to the hierarchy. Duplicate the game object that you would like to copy and drag and drop it into the new scene. To see the child objects, you don't have to click on them individually. Instead, press and hold the Alt key and then click on the game object and this will open up all the child objects for you. You can change the naming scheme of these duplicated objects by going to Edit, Project Settings, Editor, scroll all the way down and in here you can select any one of these and the next time you duplicate the object, you will be able to see those changes. If you want to apply certain settings of a component to another game object, then it is much easier if you can just save it as a preset and then select the other game object with similar component and add those presets. If you're building an application for mobile devices, in the game view, you can select Simulator and you can simulate how the UI will look like on different devices. If you want to know which of these game objects is having a particular component, you can just search for it over here, but it is going to be case sensitive, so make sure to use the exact same name as the component. We can do mathematical calculations in any of the number fields. For example, we can do addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, and even the remainder operation. If you have made changes to more than one component of a game object and you'd like to restore all these values once you exit the play mode, then select the game object, right click, copy it, exit the play mode, then select the game object once again, delete it, right click and paste, and here you can see that all the values have been restored. The robot health script has a private variable called current health which decreases every time I press the spacebar. But in order to see that, you can click on these three dots and click on debug mode. And now you'll be able to see the private variables as well. Now if your scene looks like this and you find the icons and gizmos to be very distracting, you can either disable them over here or you can select this and reduce the scale. You can even uncheck some of the gizmos that you would not like to see. If your scene has too many objects, then you can create an empty game object and use them as dividers. You can create and attach new scripts faster by clicking the add component, add the name of the script, click on new script and click on create and add. Alright, so those were some of the very basic general tips. Now let's have a look at some of the keyboard shortcuts that can be used inside the editor. To align the main camera with the scene camera, you can press on Ctrl Shift plus F. In the scene view, you can focus an object by selecting it and pressing the F button on your keyboard. And if you want to follow the object as it moves, you can press Shift plus F. You can create empty game objects in your scene by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus N and you can duplicate them by pressing Ctrl plus D. You can select these tools by pressing Q, W, E, R, T and Y. You can play the scene by pressing Ctrl plus P. You can pause the scene by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus P. And you can play the scene in steps by pressing Ctrl plus Alt plus P. And you can press Ctrl plus P once again to exit the play mode. Alright, so now it's time for some Visual Studio tips. You can autocomplete the Unity methods by typing a few of the letters and pressing Tab. You can also autocomplete some of the operators like for and for each by pressing Tab twice. You can add summaries to your functions by just typing 3 forward slashes. Now if your function has a parameter, then it includes the parameter name as well. If you have a simple if-else statement, then convert this into a ternary operator and now your code will get executed faster. If you're using =to compare tag, then replace it with the compare tag method as this gets executed much faster. If you're trying to get a component from the game object on which this particular script is placed, then you can either have a null check in place or even better would be to use the required component class which adds the component automatically if it has not been added previously. Now for the last part, let's have a look at some of the keyboard shortcuts that can be used inside Visual Studio. You can move the entire block of code or a single line of code by selecting it, press the Alt key and use the arrows to move it up or down. You can easily comment out lines of code by pressing Ctrl plus K plus C, and you can uncomment them by pressing Ctrl plus K plus U. A variable being used at different locations can be easily renamed by selecting it, hold the Ctrl key and press R twice. After renaming, press Enter and you can see the changes being reflected everywhere. If your code looks like this, then you can select the piece of code and format it by pressing the Ctrl key and then press K and F. You can edit multiple lines of code at once by holding the Ctrl key and the Alt key and then placing the cursor at the required location. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you felt that these tips were helpful, then I'd highly appreciate it if you can leave a like and subscribe. If you feel that I've missed some important tips, then do let us know in the comments below. And as always, I will see you in the next one.